Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the 10th and final round of Norway Chess, which is being held here in Stavanger. Now, going into this critical final last round, I'm trailing Magnus Carlsen by 1.5 points, which means that in order to win the tournament, I must win my last classical game with the black pieces against Rameshbabu Praggnanandhaa from India. Now, for anybody who is offended by my pronunciation, it's more of a joke. There's no insult or offense intended. Some people are way too sensitive and think that I'm making some kind of insult towards him, but I'm not. I just find it kind of funny. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the action. So, playing with black against Pragg. Now, I did beat him with the white pieces in our initial classical counter. Winning a game with black is much more difficult. So, Pragg starts with e4. I play e5 here. Now, some of you guys are probably wondering, why not play a Sicilian? Now, as much as I want to try and create something chaotic, it's worth pointing out that Pragg has played e4 and d4 in this tournament. And even with the late rounds, it's very, very difficult to have multiple systems ready to play. So he goes e4. I play e5. Also keep in mind that Pragg is trailing me by 1.5 points. So if Pragg can beat me in the classical, he will leapfrog me and finish in second place or potentially tie for first place. So I play e5. We get knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5 from Pragg. He decides to play the classic Spanish. And now I play the move a6. We get bishop a4, and here I play the move bishop c5. Now, I had some hesitancy around whether I should play this specific system in the Spanish, because this is a system that Pragg himself has played on quite a few occasions with the black pieces. But in this modern day where computers are so strong and they can show that all systems are playable, even playing a system against an expert generally is possible. Pragg goes c3, I play knight e7, and now he plays move d4. You guys will probably remember that in my two games, one against Nepo from the candidates and against Magnus Carlsen here, both those games had castles, knight g6, and d4, bishop a7. So Pragg goes for the immediate c3, d4. I trade the juicers, and now I go bishop b4, and here Pragg plays bishop d2. I trade the bishops, and now I play the move d5, because if I don't play d5 here, white will have the big white center, and white has much more space. So I go d5, Pragg takes, and now I take with the knight. Now, queen takes d5 maybe is a possible move here, but after castles followed by knight c3 and d5, in general, white should be a little bit better. So I take with the horse. Pragg trades on c6, and now we castle, and here he plays move knight to e5. Now, white is probably slightly better because I have the doubled pawns stacked on top of each other on c6 and c7, but on the other hand, white has this isolated pawn, which is blockaded by the horse on d5. So, these two things sort of offset each other. So after knight e5, it plays move rook to e8, and now Pragg plays rook e1. You're probably thinking, well, why not capture the free pawn? If white were to capture this pawn here after queen f6, hitting the horse, knight to e5, and now knight to f4, black suddenly has a lot of threats here. One sample line would be something like knight c3, which loses because after queen g5, I threaten mate on g2. If white goes g3, I have knight h3, checking the king and eating the queen on d2. If white plays f3, trying to guard with the queen, same thing. Knight h3, checking the king, and I win the queen on d2 and the game as well. So Pragg plays rook e1, I go bishop to f5, knight c3, and now I play this move knight b4, trying to jump with my horse to either the d3 or the c2 square. Pragg plays queen to f4 here, trying to hit the bishop on f5, and now I go bishop e6. Pragg plays this move rook to e2, and now I play the move knight d5. Now, this is really the critical moment of the game, as in this position, white has to try to come up with a plan, but I'm also starting to feel a little bit optimistic too, because if white were to play a move like, let's say, rook f1, and I have time to kick this horse out of the center of the board, after knight f3 and a move like rook to b8 with knight d5 or knight d3, these weaknesses in the center of the board, as well as on the open b file, actually give black a bit of an advantage. So Pragg used a lot of time here before playing this move rook to e2. Now, here I was up over 20 minutes on the clock, but I burned up all that time before playing this move knight d5. Now, I really didn't want to actually play this move knight to d5. I wanted to play this move f6, trying to kick the horse. But if I play f6, white can sack the knight, and then play d5, forking the bishop and the knight. And the computer here says that after bishop to f7, takes, and queen e7, followed by rook to d8. Black is completely fine here, but from a human perspective, very hard to play, because after a move like knight g3 or knight d4, white is up a pawn on c6, and the knight is jumping towards my king side here. So I spent a lot of time here trying to work it out. I wasn't very happy with f6, so ultimately I decided to retreat with the horse back to d5, attacking the queen and the knight at the same time. Pragg plays queen g3, I trade the horses, and now he shocked me by taking with this pawn on c3. I was sure that Pragg was going to play queen takes knight in this position, and after I put put the bishop on d5 and create the classic wooden shield here. After rook e1 and rook e6, I thought that after knight d3 with the idea of knight c5, white is probably marginally better. Now, it's not much because I can trade the towers, play queen g5, g3, and something like h6, and the wooden shield is very, very powerful. But in general, I thought that this position had very little risk for white and could be better. So I spent all this time trying to calculate these lines, and Pragg played pawn takes knight very quickly. And honestly, if I'd known he was going to do this, I would never have spent 24 minutes on the move knight d5. So after takes, I play the move c5, Pragg takes, I go queen d5, we get c6, and now I play a very important move, queen d6. Now, it's worth pointing out that when I reached this position initially, I was very close to making a huge blunder here with this move bishop to f5. This was my initial idea with the idea of f6 to go after the knight on e5 or the rook on e2. But if white plays queen to f4, after bishop g6 and a move like I think rook to e3 here, white is actually better here. The knight guards the extra pawn. There's pressure on the bishop, pressure towards the pawns on c7 and f7. And even though the computer says black is fine after this weird move bishop h5, in general, it feels like it's starting to get a little bit out of control and frankly quite dangerous to play. So after using quite a bit of time, I play this move queen d6. Here, Pragg plays knight to f3, and this move essentially gives away any winning chances. Now, Pragg probably was a little bit worried that after rook e1 and bishop to d5, with all these weaknesses, these pawns on c6 and a2 being loose here, that he could end up worse in an endgame. So he decides to be very pragmatic, pun intended, and plays this move knight f3. Now, at this point, I had resigned myself to the fact that I thought the game was going to be a draw, but as we'll see, it's not quite so simple. So I take on c6, knight d4, and here I played the move queen d7. I could have also played queen d6 as well, but I wanted to keep the piece on the board because after queen d7, Pragg now plays this move rook e1. Now, Pragg, after the game, said that he felt he should have probably just traded everything off on e6 here, and in this position, after, say, rook to e1, rook b8, followed by rook b6, guarding all the pawns, the game should end in a draw. But when Pragg plays rook e1, now it starts to actually get exciting again, because here I have bishop to c4, attacking the rook, and I think Pragg simply missed this move, thinking that after knight f5, he was winning here, but it's not actually winning, because here I go g6, stopping the mate, we get rook to e7, and now I trade the towers. Now, if I were to take the horse here, I actually lose, because after takes, I don't have time to go for the ice skater with queen b1, because my king is in check. So I trade the towers, I go king g7, Pragg plays h4, and here I miss my opportunity when I play the move h5. Now, mind you, it's not a major advantage, but the computer says that I can play this quiet move rook b8, allowing h5 here, and after the very stone-cold move bishop takes pawn on a2, black is apparently better, although after c4 with ideas like knight d5 or queen c3 here, it still feels very tricky to play from a human perspective. So I make the practical decision here, I play h5, stopping white from playing h5, but also intending to create extra squares for my king to run to h6 or h7. We get queen to g5, and now I play the move rook to e8. Now, perhaps I could have taken this pawn on a2 here, but after knight takes g6, it suddenly gets really chaotic, because if I take the knight, there's rook to e7 check, winning the game with the classic kebab. And if I play the move queen g4, I guess after takes, rook a1, and bishop b3, I'm fine. But even allowing this line with knight g6 is simply insane. So I play the move rook e8 instead, trying to stop this knight g6, rook e7, but Pragg plays knight f5, king g8, he trades the rook on e8, and now we agree to a draw. Now, I did actually think for a bit before agreeing to Pragg's draw offer here, but ultimately I concluded that after queen takes e8, I thought that knight e7, king h7, and g4 is possible. Now, mind you, this is actually quite bad for white after takes and h5 and bishop takes a2, but it looks mildly scary, and I wasn't 100% sure. But then also, besides this, white can also play the very natural knight to e3, attacking the bishop, and after I take the juicer on a2 and white goes queen to a5, white will recapture the pawn on a6 here, and once white recaptures the pawn, both sides have 4 pawns on the board, it's even material, and there's simply not a whole lot going on. So, in this position, after rook takes e8, I agree to take the draw. What that means is that I ensure myself that I'm going to finish in second place in the tournament, because Magnus Carlsen drew his classical game and won the Armageddon. So with no chance of winning, a draw is a very reasonable result. And now we move on to the Armageddon. Now, this is a very strange situation, those of you guys who are watching the video, because this is one of the very few Armageddons or games in the tournament which is actually useless, has no impact whatsoever on the results. With our classical draw, it guarantees that I will finish in second and Pragg will finish in third. So we're essentially just playing a game for the fans, but there's nothing on the line. So Pragg plays d4, knight f6, he plays bishop f4, classic London system, d5, e3, I go c5, knight f3, knight c6, and now Pragg plays this move, bishop b5. Now I suspect because of the situation Pragg played this move, it's not considered the most testing option here. White usually plays either knight d2 or c3, but Pragg plays bishop b5. Here I play the move queen b6, which is probably okay, although I think queen a5 is better, and now we get c4. I play bishop g4, we get knight c3, and now I play this move e6, trying to finish my development in the center of the board. Pragg castles, I go a6, he takes on c5, I take back with the queen, get knight a4, queen a7, takes, and now rook c1. Now here I play the move bishop e7, and keep in mind in Armageddon games, there are some moments where you have to either use time or just make practical decisions. And in this position, perhaps rook to d8 is playable here, but I was very worried that after takes, if I ever take with c-pawn, there's rook c7, and white's creating the kebab on the 7th. And when I go bishop e7 takes, here I can take with the horse, and at least I'm not completely lost. Now, another problem with this Armageddon game is that I was very, very slow, and as you can tell already, I was down quite a bit of time. So we get h3, I take on f3, Pragg captures, and I play rook c8, we get bishop e5, I castle, and now he plays the move rook c4, and now I go c5, trying to get rid of this weakness on the c file. Here, Pragg plays the move rook fc1, and now I play the move knight b6. Now, this, of course, is a situation where computer says after knight b4, black is completely fine because you attack the pawn on a2, and you have the idea of knight d3 to fork the rook and the bishop. But so little time on the clock, this is a move that I think I spent a minute, maybe I could find. But in reality, because of how low I am, I'm not spending a minute, and so it's not reality. But this would have probably kept the game very equal. So instead I play knight b6, Pragg goes queen g4, and this is an excellent move, which Pragg used a bit of time on. It's very easy to want to just trade the knights here, but if you trade the knights in this position, now if you go queen g3 or queen g4, I can just play f6 here to attack the bishop, stop the mate threats, but much more importantly, the queen on b6 covers his pawn on e6. Whereas in the game after queen g4, I cannot play f6 here because then white captures the pawn on e6 and wins the game, which means that I have to play the very ugly looking move g6, and now this wooden shield on e5 becomes much more powerful with so many great diagonals. Pragg trades the knights, and now he plays the move b4, and here I play this move rook c6, a move that I played quickly just simply out of inertia. After a5, I thought that after takes, I'm in a lot of trouble. Apparently, I can still trade, and after queen h4, I have this weird-looking move f6. If white takes, there's bishop to e3, and suddenly I'm fine. But I didn't see this idea, and I thought actually white would get the double A battery and checkmate me on this diagonal. So I play rook c6, we get takes, and now I play the move queen b7. If I take here, after takes in this position, maybe I still have the idea with f6. I didn't actually see it because after takes, there's bishop e3. But regardless, at this point, I was just trying to make moves, so I played queen b7. Pragg goes h4, I play f6, bishop d6, another good move here, and now I play the move f5. I could have traded the bishops on d6, but I felt that after takes, rook takes d6, even though material is equal here, there's h5 along with rook c7 here, and all these threats simply should be overwhelming for white. So I go f5, Pragg plays the move queen g3, and now I play rook to d8. Here, Pragg plays the move h5, a good move trying to open up the king side, and now I play this move g5. Now, I don't want to play g5 here. I'd much rather trade the bishops, but after takes, rook c4, white again has these ideas with rook c7, and there's all kinds of pressure on the g file as well. So here I go g5, Pragg plays e4, another excellent move, simply trying to open up more files. It's not the only move that wins, but I really like it from a practical standpoint, because now white tries to open up the e file. There's still queen e5 here, there's h6 as well, and white is completely winning. So I take on e4, Pragg plays queen to e5 now, attacking all the pawns at the same time on e6, e4, and g5. Here I play queen d7, and now he goes h6, threatening the checkmate on g7, and the game concludes after bishop f8, queen takes g5, king f7, and the move bishop takes f8. And here I resign the game in view of the fact that if I take with the king, after rook takes e4 and rook f4 here, the king is completely open on the f file. White is just completely winning here. And if I take with a rook on f8, another one, white takes anyway. And after king to e8 here, white can go rook to b1 using the open b file. And my king, queen, and rooks are simply misplaced. All of white's pieces are super active. The king on g1 is very safe, and it's just GG on the spot. So after bishop takes f8, I resign the game here. This means that Pragg does win the Armageddon game. However, for me, it's not that big of a deal because I mentioned earlier this game simply had no value for either of us other than being symbolic, simply because the prizes were guaranteed. I was guaranteed to finish second place after drawing the classical game, and Pragg was guaranteed to finish in third place as well. So, all in all, not super unhappy about this game or the tournament as a whole. Very positive and successful tournament for me. I end up finishing the tournament undefeated in the classical portion with 2 wins and 8 draws. I pushed my rating back over 2,800 in classical chess for the first time since 2015, 9 long years ago. And also, I'm currently the #1 ranked American player in the world, as well as #1 American player in the world and #2 ranked player overall as well, behind Magnus Carlsen. So a very successful event overall for me. I will say I'm a little bit disappointed because I had the chance to win this tournament if I'd won that classical game against Alireza Firouzja a couple days ago. But all in all, it was pretty successful for me, so I shouldn't be too unhappy, especially because ultimately I'm a streamer, content creator first, and I play these tournaments simply for the love of the game as opposed to having massive aspirations. So it is what it is. I finished in second place. Magnus Carlsen wins. Big shout out to Pragg, by the way, because he does get the last laugh in this match. Ha ha ha, pun intended. But also he had a great event beating Fabiano in classical, beating Magnus in classical as well. And the future, I would say, is very, very bright for the Indians between Pragg, Gukesh, Arjun, and many others. They are coming. The Indian kids are coming. They're very, very strong already, and they're only going to keep improving. So Pragg had a great event as well. And a big shout out to him. So the standings are Magnus 1, I'm second, Pragg is third. I assume that Fabiano is fourth, although it could be Alireza. I honestly don't know. It's Alireza, Fabiano, I'm guessing, and fourth and fifth. And then, of course, Ding Loren in sixth place. So those are the standings overall. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with my performance here. Again, I could be unhappy with the Alireza game, but you can't get everything you want in life, ultimately. So it'll have to do for now. So on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed this recap from the 10th and final round of Norway Chess being held here in Stavanger. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button below, and we will be back soon with some more great recaps and YouTube-only content. See you guys. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.